Hello, hope you're having a great weekend so far. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Choy. Let's start with the first story. This week, the two Koreas are expected to exchange final lists of names of those who wish to take part in reunions for war-separated families later this month. Unfortunately, North Korea's potential plans for a missile test has put the long-overdue event at risk. Kwon Jang-ho starts us off.
Plans for an upcoming round of reunions of families separated by the Korean War are carrying on as scheduled. Efforts to locate the 400 potential reunion candidates from both South and North Korea, 200 from each side, are being completed on Sunday, and the lists of names will be exchanged on Monday. Then a final 100 candidates from each side will be chosen, and those lists will be exchanged on Thursday. Preparations are also well underway at the Mount Kumgang Resort in North Korea, where the reunion event will be taking place. But current relations between the two Koreas are under intense strain yet again, putting the reunions at risk. The main sticking point is a rocket that the North has indicated it will launch to mark the 70th anniversary of its ruling Workers' Party next Saturday. North Korean authorities claim the rocket launch is to put a satellite into orbit. But United Nations resolutions ban any launch using ballistic missile technology. So even if the North doesn't go ahead with the launch, the existing resolutions have already raised tensions with Pyongyang.
Once UN Security Council resolutions were imposed, South Korea's relations with the North were strained even further. The deterioration of inter-Korean relations was an unavoidable consequence.
North Korea has also been criticizing South Korea on other issues, taking particular offense at President Park Geun-hye's address to the UN General Assembly last week, in which she condemned the North's continued push towards nuclear weapons development.
If this kind of confrontational rhetoric continues, everyone is in agreement that this whole deal could fall apart.
Although the reunion event is just over 2 weeks away, it still seems unclear whether it'll go forward, making it less certain that the separated families will be able to see each other again. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Despite the ups and downs, the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex has managed to be very productive. According to South Korea's Unification Ministry on Sunday, since opening in 2005, the factory park has recorded a total production volume worth more than $2.9 billion as of July. Although no official data is available yet, the average monthly production volume has hovered around $46 million this year, so the total output will likely surpass the $3 billion mark in August. And if not for the suspension of operations in 2013 due to inter-Korean tensions, that number could have been much higher. Still, the complex has come a long way from the $14.9 million it recorded in its first year. Currently, 124 South Korean companies and 54,000 North Korean workers keep the complex going. The Korean economy has seen its growth rate move up and down over the past year, but it could bounce back in the third quarter. Our Shin Se-min has this report.
Korea's economic growth rate has gone through massive fluctuations every quarter since the first quarter of last year. After sliding from 1.1% in first quarter of last year, the figure has remained in the 0% range for 5 straight quarters now. Market watchers say the fluctuations are likely to continue as they're predicting a rebound in the domestic economy in the third quarter of this year. Korea's industrial output rose 0.5% in August from a month earlier, the third month of growth. Retail sales, a key figure that gauges domestic consumption, inched up 1.9% during the same period, the second straight month of growth. Finance Ministry data also reflects an increase in investment. Investment in construction and facilities and equipment went up 3.5% and 5.7% in August. Despite the improved domestic data, exports are still on a downward slide, casting a long shadow over the export-reliant country. Outbound shipments continue to drop in September for a 9th straight month, down 8.3% from the same month last year. Experts say Korea's outbound shipments are likely to pick up slightly in October and November. Still, with the global trade volume continuing to dwindle due to slowing demand, the country's export outlook looks dim. One bright spot on the horizon may be the government's 2-week-long Black Friday event, created to mimic the North American holiday shopping season and the accompanying boost in sales. The Korean government says it is positive that the economy will grow to a rate of over 1% in the 2 remaining quarters of the year on a pickup in consumer spending thanks to the Chuseok holiday and a recent cut in the consumption tax. 신세민, Arirang News.
Korea's 2-week Black Friday event already seems to be bearing fruit for the country's major retailers. That's based on the first 3 days of sales recorded by the country's leading retailers, which have posted sales figures that are 20% higher than the same shopping period last year. Though the department store says it saw a 23% increase in sales in the first 3 days of the month, while Hyundai department store sales rose 27.5%. The retail giants say the fashion industry has been leading the sales growth. China's National Day holiday, which falls right in the middle of the Black Friday period, has also boosted spending. The event began October 1st and runs until the 14th. Underage shareholders from families that control Korea's family-run conglomerates, or chaebol, hold more than $800 million in shares in those companies. According to chaebol.com on Sunday, 87 children and teenagers who are directly related to the owners of Korea's large business conglomerates had stakes in their affiliates. The total amount of shares under the names of these young tycoons has spiked by a shocking 173% from earlier this year. The 12-year-old grandson of Hanmi Pharmaceutical chair Im Sung-gi topped the list with more than $72 million in shares, and the rest of Im's grandchildren dominated the rankings from runner-up to the 7th place spot. In light of such developments, Korea's main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy has suggested slapping higher taxes on large businesses and better regulating the transfer of wealth between family members. The Korean government launched its own investigation into imported Volkswagen cars and also announced testing for other types of emissions rigging than the kind discovered by authorities in the U.S. will begin. The Ministry of Environment and Industry experts suspect older models of the Volkswagen Tiguan and Golf could be using a different type of device to cheat emission standard tests. Authorities say if that's proven true, separate sanctions and penalties will be imposed. Meanwhile, hundreds of people in Korea are expected to join a civil suit against a German carmaker in the coming weeks. 2 people filed suit with the Seoul Central District Court on Wednesday. The law firm representing the plaintiff said it has received over 500 inquiries since then, and over 100 people have already submitted documents. In other news, many wild plants in Korea are on the verge of extinction due to reckless gathering by people looking for a souvenir from nature. But the Korea National Park Service is hoping to restore some of these plants to their natural habitats, and it's already seeing results. We turn to Park Se-young for this story.
On these cliffs high above Hallyu Maritime National Park, people are working hard to restore the Neofinetia fulcata. This is a kind of orchid, and it's one of the most endangered plant species in the country. The crew plants the seedlings with great care so their roots can settle safely between the rocks. The plants have gradually disappeared due to human activity, with many people picking them for decorative purposes. Fortunately, a crop was found 3 years ago at this park in Gyeongsangnam-do Province, and the Korea National Park Service was able to cultivate and plant roughly 500 new seeds. The seeds have had an 87% survival rate despite a drought and a series of typhoons that hit Korea this year.
It's difficult to create new populations of this orchid species. We used a tissue culture method to cultivate about 3,000 seeds.
Similar methods were used to cultivate the seeds of other plants, and the seeds were planted in their natural habitats to increase their chances of survival. The project is part of a larger one by the Park Service to restore endangered plants. Korea's national parks are home to over half of the 77 endangered plant species in the country, including another fragrant orchid called the Dendrobium moniliforme. It's often gathered for decorative and medical purposes, and it too is endangered. But over the past year, the Park Service has cultivated over 2,000 seedlings and planted them between rocks and tied them to tree branches at Wolchesan National Park in Jeollanam-do Province. The Siberian lily, which is now found in just 4 regions in Korea, has also been restored at Mount Ode in Gangwon-do Province. With its recent success, the Park Service is hoping to restore more plant species to locations around the country and place a stronger ban on the gathering of endangered plants. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
A U.S. airstrike on an Afghan hospital has killed 19 people, including 3 children. The attack, which took place on Saturday, heavily damaged a Doctors Without Borders trauma center in war-torn Kunduz while doctors were treating dozens of patients. Hospital officials said the assault lasted around 45 minutes. Fires burned some patients to death in their beds. 12 of the dead were staff members of the charity group. The U.S.-led military coalition in Kabul said the attack was launched against insurgents who were directly firing on U.S. service members and added one airstrike may have caused collateral damage to a medical facility. U.S. President Barack Obama offered his deepest condolences and pledged a full investigation into the incident, while UN Rights Chief Zaid Ra'ad Al Hussein raised the possibility of a war crimes investigation. The Philippines announced its first possible death from Middle East Respiratory Syndrome or MERS on Saturday. Its Department of Health said the case involves a 63-year-old Saudi national who arrived in the country on September 17th. Health authorities said they were not able to conduct all the necessary tests while the man was alive, but he was admitted to a hospital on September 28th with MERS symptoms and died the following day. X-rays suggest he may have had a heart attack. The MERS task force has begun tracking 93 people who may have come into contact with the man during his time in the country, including hotel and hospital staff and funeral parlor workers. On Saturday, health authorities seeking to ease public anxiety said the situation is contained. And now the weather. If you're in Korea, do brace yourself for adverse drop in temperature in late evenings, up to 10 degrees difference between the daytime high and evening time lows. Seoul will drop to a chilling 7 degrees on Monday morning, but the mercury will rise up to 26 in the day, so be prepared for that. And now let's check out the weather conditions outside of Korea, around the world. And that does it for us for now. For more, join us at 10 p.m. Korea time. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend.